Right, well, welcome back, and thanks for getting back on time. We're going to have two important sessions now, shortly emerging multinationals, but I'm joined by two ministers from Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, two of the critical countries in the CIS, however you want to describe the CIS, but certainly countries from that region. And of course, they are connected by the Caspian Sea, and there's a lot of trade across the Caspian Sea between Azerbaijan in the west and by Kazakhstan in the east. So what we want to engage in is where there are new opportunities, understanding the opportunities, because both countries are suffering at the moment because of the dramatic drop in oil and energy prices. And so what I'd like to do is introduce to you both of the ministers, Sahil Babayev, who is Deputy Minister of the Economy for Azerbaijan, and Rakhim Oshakbayev, who is the Vice Minister for Investments and Development in Kazakhstan. Now, can I just encourage you again, great in the first session to hear and get so many comments from you. We've got about 35 minutes, so don't sit on your hands. Many big questions for Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, particularly as the new Belt and Silk Road develops so effectively, and what are the potentials there? How are both countries seeing it? Or beyond Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, any other perspectives that you can bring to the discussion? We couldn't have every minister up here. We have two today. So let me ask each of them, just to give me in 90 seconds a sense of how their country is responding to the current level of crisis with the unexpected drop in oil and energy prices. And let's go to Azerbaijan first, to Dr. Babayev, if I may, because oil and energy used to be 92% of your economy by value. It's now 82% of value, and you've had the World Bank looking at your country. You've introduced capital controls as well. What is your assessment of your country at the moment? Then we can move forward on opportunities.
Thank you very much, Nick, for these questions, interesting questions. Maybe I will try to address the issues that I mentioned, and maybe some misunderstandings exist there. I would first start that the 82% is the export of oil in overall export of Azerbaijan, while in the economy scale, 71% of the economy of Azerbaijan is the non-oil sector, and just 29% is the oil and gas sector. And I would like also to deliver my thanks to Dubai government and Dubai Chamber for this excellent opportunity to address this esteemed audience and to give information about Azerbaijan and where we see our priorities, where we see our future, and where we would like to attract the foreign investors, including Gulf countries, into our country. After 15 years of dynamic economic growth, Azerbaijan reached a certain level of development, especially considering the last 10 years where our GDP has grown more than 3 times, our non-oil sector has grown 2.5 times, our foreign trade turnover has grown 4.3 times, and our strategic reserves have grown almost 30 times. Of course, a very sharp downgrade of the oil prices have affected certainly the revenues of the country. And we see this as a good opportunity for developing the non-oil sector of Azerbaijan, for bringing the value toward the other sectors and diversification of the economy. As I mentioned, we have reached a certain level of diversification in the overall economic development. If in 2007, the overall growth of Azerbaijan, overall GDP of Azerbaijan was reliant on oil and gas sector for 60%, today it has dropped to 29%.
Could I just ask you, because in this opening round, I just want to get a clear idea from you of how in Baku you are seeing your economy, because you're getting 2.2 billion budget deficit you've got to confront. You're getting $1 billion both from the World Bank and from the Asia Development Bank. How do you see the management? Literally, can you just give me a brief assessment of the management of this issue?
Again, it's a normal course of the development and governance of the country. You always plan your budget with a deficit, and this deficit figure is not very high. We plan our budget for 2016. We're preparing the new budget based on the figures of $25 per barrel and $30 per barrel, which will allow us to mitigate all the deficiencies and all the deficits of the budget. Plus to that, borrowing from the international market, it's not a new instrument. This instrument is always used, and we are benefiting from this. Azerbaijan is one of the very stable countries in this demand. Our total foreign debt is just 12% of our GDP, and our strategic reserves 7 times more than our total foreign debt. So it's a very big pace where we can get the foreign borrowings, including foreign borrowing, let's say that way, to develop our economy. And our strategic reserve ensures us for the security cushion for the development of our economy.
Right, well, let's talk about the opportunities, particularly when it comes to the new transport and infrastructure potential and what is happening both in Azerbaijan and across the Caspian into Kazakhstan. Vice Minister Oshakbayev, what's your assessment, given that you've got your election coming up in about a month's time, and the government has already said we want a mandate to manage difficulties coming up in the economy because of the difficulties over oil and energy. But you have big plans. But just tell us what your assessment of your own economy is at the moment.
Thank you very much. First of all, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the question. So, as I understand, Kazakhstan is quite famous for the long-term strategic planning. So we have plans for 2050, 2020, strategy to 2020. And the main goal was to be among 30 most developed countries in most of the dimensions. And at least for the last 14 years, we enjoyed high oil prices, growing oil prices. The annual GDP growth was about 8%. Also, 2015, we entered Eurasian Economic Union, and the idea was that we have one of the most competitive business climate, and entering the Eurasian Economic Union, we will be able to compete and attract entrepreneurship activity investments in our country in order to produce goods, services, and export into the common market of 170 million. But last year, so we received lots of black swans, mostly coming from north, and also these changes, it's tectonic changes in oil prices. Nobody was able to predict this, and of course, we need to change our model of growth. So before it was mostly based on resources, but now we should switch to the investment-based growth. So what is the answer of our government? First of all, it's an improvement of business climate. That's why our president last year announced a very ambitious package of reforms, 5 institutional reforms, which also touch mostly institutions. First of all, it's right of rule of law. It's a modernization of civil service, so to be accountable and transparent, to increase accountability and transparency in the government. Also, we are talking a lot about the identity and unity, and also about diversification and further improvement of our investment business climate.
Vice Minister, can I just put it to you? You used the term black swans. Black swans, the new normal. How would you say your government has coped with something it wasn't expecting?
It's obvious because the situation is changing very fast, very rapidly. So, and the reaction, I think, first of all, we are relying on the basis. So I repeat it again, it's a business climate, protection of property rights, rule of law. The second, also, we are developing our relationship with our neighbors, first of all, China, also Central Asia countries, Europe, US, and also Kazakhstan is quite famous on the multi-vectoral foreign policy. So the biggest investor and the biggest trade partner for Kazakhstan now, it's not Russia, not China, it's in Europe, European Union. And
Right, well, look, let's move down that track, and please do give me your thoughts, either on here or I'll come to you with microphones. But already I'm getting a couple of questions here about development of SMEs and entrepreneurs. That's on the minds of some of the delegates. And other than oil and gas, which sectors do you consider to be priority sectors? So bear that in mind. That's on their minds as you answer the questions. But one of the important developments which we've been talking about even before we came onto the platform is the new transport infrastructure, the new One Belt, One Road, and the implications of that for developing new opportunities. So can I understand, you've seen just a dramatic increase in truck traffic across the Caspian from Azerbaijan into Kazakhstan because of blockages up in Russia. How you're seeing that developing, particularly when it comes to the new railway opportunities west from Azerbaijan through Georgia into Turkey and then into Europe? Minister.
I would like to highlight that you mentioned about the priorities. That's actually one of the major priorities, to develop the transit and transportation potential of these countries. And if you look to the overall trade volume between China and European Union, you will see that